You know, I think this show kind of taught me a valuable lesson here. It taught me that I think maybe we're not supposed to have nice things in this world. Maybe we're not supposed to be happy. Maybe we're just supposed to be very, very upset and disappointed and heartbroken all the time. So I just watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, the brand new Netflix live-action adaptation of the original animated show Avatar: The Last Airbender, not to be confused with the Blue People Avatar that James Cameron does. It's a completely different thing, believe it or not. I do know some people that get confused by that. And Avatar: The Last Airbender stars a little kid named Aang. He's this little guy who finds out he's the Avatar. What's the Avatar, you might ask? Well, it's a guy or a woman who is able to bend all four elements. What is bending all four elements? Well, it's either, controlling fire, water, earth, or air in sort of this supernatural martial arts type way that is so cool and just kind of like the most anime shit ever, but it works so well in the animated show. And it made every single early 2000s kid feel like a superstar when they were in a pool or a shower. And when I say early 2000s people, I mean me, and I mean I still do that anytime I'm in a pool or a shower because waterbending is cool. Now I just want to preference before I really get into the show. I love the animated so much. It is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and it's a show that had a very distinct impact on me from being a child and, watching the show again in my later adult years. I've really loved every second of it. It's one of the most rewatchable things in the world. It has really left a mark on me when it comes to how I like TV shows to be, how I like storytelling to be, and just some cool shit that I see in TV. I am also one of the few people on this planet that have been asking for a live-action adaptation for years, and I'm not talking about that one movie that was made by M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, that movie that everybody hates for, justified reasons, but yet again was made by M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, this guy that does not make many great movies. I said for years, all they gotta do, get the right people involved, do it as a series, put the right amount of money into it, put the right amount of love, and you can get the best live-action adaptation of anything ever if you do it right. And you know what? I'm here today to eat my bucket of shit, because I don't think you could do this in live action anymore. Or maybe you can, but I just don't think anybody on planet Earth will do it the way that it actually needs to be done, because what the fuck is this show, man? I'm starting harsh. I'm starting really, really harsh. Let me just answer some base questions first. First, is this show the worst thing ever? No, it's not. Is it worse than the movie? Absolutely not. It's so much better than the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie. For starters, they call Aang Aang. They don't call him Ong. So that's a win. The bending in this show, 110 times better. The bending in this show is excellent. The fights are cool. Some of the CGI is a little wacky at points, but ultimately, all the bending scenes, all the fights look and feel amazing. Firebending is so, so cool. Airbending and waterbending are fine. Earthbending looks a little stinky outside of the opening scene, but pretty much everything else is great. The production is so much better than the M. Night Shyamalan movie. Everything looks huge, massive. It's great. The green screens stick out sometimes, which does kind of suck, but they do a pretty good job of making everything feel epic and huge. And all of that is amazing. The water tribes, the Fire Nation, everything looks so good. The costumes are there. The music, the production on this show, the people that were, whose jobs it was to make this feel like the Avatar world, bravo! Because all of that stuff was nailed. The production design in this show, from the music, to the look, to the cinematography, to the VFX, amazing. 5 out of 5, that's great. But then we get to the story, then we get to the writing, and then we get to the characters and the acting. And my God, man. First off, let's start with the performances. I'm not going to be too harsh, because they're kids. These are kid actors. A lot of them, this is their first role, so I'm not going to be too harsh. But there are some distinct performance issues in this show, and maybe it's not totally on them. Maybe it's a lot on the actors. I'm not even going to name names, because there are people that are really, really good in this show. But some of the acting, matched with some of the writing, just made for some really, really cringy moments that just were very uncomfortable to watch, because they were so, not even childish, not even childish like it's for a kid show, but just so goofy and they felt the farthest thing from human, that it made the show so difficult sometimes. And yet again, it might not even be the kid actors, it might just be the writing, but I'll get in the writing in a second. There are some decent performances. The guy that plays Iroh, really good. The guy that plays Fire Lord Ozai, amazing. Fire Lord Ozai, probably the best part of this season, but I have issues with Fire Lord Ozai. Why is he in this season? He's a character that doesn't appear. You don't see his face until the final few episodes of the last season of Avatar. Here, he's everywhere. You see him in almost every freaking episode. It takes away a lot of the mystique, and that gets into some of the bigger problems I have with this season of television that I'll talk to in a sec. But then we get to the dialogue in the writing is for Netflix, a multi-billion dollar company, there's got to be better than this. This is not an indie project. This is not a project bringing in small-time, no-name writers. This is a massive, multi-billion-dollar company on a massive, multi-hundred-million-dollar TV show. The writing and the dialogue needs to be better. I don't think it's criminal for me to say we expect better. The first episode has some of the worst exposition dialogue I have ever heard in my entire life. It takes them 30 minutes of bad exposition dialogue to explain what the original animated show explains in its 30-second intro sequence. What the fuck? The grandma? Horrible. What they wrote for that grandma is so bad in the first episode, it made me cringe so hard. And there are some episodes that are written well. I think the Zuko episode, I believe it was episode 6, where you see his backstory and everything, I think that was really fine. There's some stuff near the latter half of the season that's good, but a lot of the writing here is so poor. There's a moment, I think, in the second or third episode where Sokka was fighting Suki. Like, they just started kind of hanging out, and she's fighting him, and she chokes him out. She's just, and he passes out for, like, a second, but then he taps, she lets go of him, and, like, he just walks away. It's so awkward. I can't even... the writing is just unbelievable. And the writing when it comes to adapting the source material, this is where I'm really going to get into the show, right? I'm really going to get a hit on it, because I don't want to be, like, too aggressive and say, oh, they changed all of this, and it sucks that they changed it. Like, I understand changes, because if the show is a beat-for-beat remake of the original, it's going to be bad. You can't do that. You have to justify its existence by being faithful to the source material, but also delivering and offering something new for audiences. So, like, something like The Last of Us, I take a lot of shots at The Last of Us because I think that show was way too much of a beat-for-beat recreation. It never allowed itself to become its own thing. Therefore, a lot of its best moments felt watered down because they were done before in the game and better. It felt like they were copying that. This show is the worst of both worlds. The times that they actually are faithful and they're recreating stuff, it feels rushed, it feels out of nowhere, it feels out of place, and it's watered down. For example, this show has no sense of patience. They want to get right into everything. So they take stuff from future seasons and throw it in here. Leaves from the Vine, they have essentially that moment. Like, no, you don't see Iroh singing Leaves from a Vine, but they have a moment there with the music playing and all that stuff that completely will take away, God forbid there's a season 2, will take away from that moment if it happens in a future season. They do it here, waste it, and now if it happens in a future season, it's going to feel watered down and dumb because they rushed it. The Fire Lord being in season 1, yes, that's a change. It's a big change from the animated. But it's a bad change because it waters down the Fire Lord, and it makes it so the build up to his reveal later in the show, and not just being this kind of like mysterious force, kind of like this wizard behind the curtain, this evil man, actually seeing his reveal later in the seasons, that's taken away. The show feels like it wants to get to the finale. And it's the first goddamn season, man. Like, why are they rushing it? The show never takes a moment for, like, Aang to just be a kid and for the characters to kind of go through their arcs that they went through in the original season. The original season of the animated, yes, there's a bigger world. There's a big war, and they let Aang know, you're the Avatar. You have to save us all. It's your destiny. But Aang is just like, I don't really care. I just want to be a kid. I want to sled some penguins or whatever, right? There's none of that in this show from the beginning. They're like, Aang, you're the Avatar and you have to save the world. And he's like melodramatic, like, oh my God, I gotta save the world. Holy shit. And that's the entire season. And they immediately get into the larger stuff. And it doesn't work. That big change of sort of rushing to the larger story takes away from all of the character development and all of the chances for us to actually get to love and enjoy these characters and spend time with them. It also takes away from Aang personally, a character that I think they really destroyed in one season. So the whole idea of Aang is that he finds out he's the Avatar and he doesn't want to be the Avatar. He just wants to be a kid and enjoy life. So what does he do? He doesn't want to go to war with the Fire Nation, so he runs away from the Air Nomads, and that's when they all get killed and he gets swept up and frozen for 100 years. That's a big part of his arc in the original show, is that he was running from his destiny, avoiding it, Everybody died, and now he's awake 100 years later, and he's still sort of running from his destiny. Yeah, fuck that. We're not doing that story arc. A story arc that literally lasts until the last episode of the animated. No. Instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have him be sent away, kind of like Kal-El in Superman, you know, leaving Krypton right before it's destroyed. Hi, Future Joe here. I just want to say the characterization that I just used to describe what happened in that moment in the live action isn't really great or accurate or kind of where I intended to go with it. So what actually happened in the show is Aang does kind of leave on his own. He's not like sent off by the monks, but he's essentially doing something very different than what he does in the animated series. And I didn't think it really worked very well. And I know this video as a whole is kind of very ranty. I'll promise you guys this, I will be making a fully fledged scripted Avatar The Last Airbender video, kind of breaking down in detail some of the stuff about the show. So if you're mad that this video is very just like kind of ranty, stay tuned for that. That one will be a little bit better when it comes to organizing my thoughts. All right, let's get back to it. Then he gets swept up. Then he wakes up and he's like, you know what? I don't know what it really means to be the Avatar, but fuck it. I want to save the world. This is great. This is melodrama. It's so frustrating, and it doesn't make any sense that they had changed it that way. The show is so dramatic. It's not fun whatsoever, and I'm not saying the show needed to be as fun as the original, as comic-y as the original, but, like, it just lacks all of the fun. There is no fun to be had in this show. It's dark and gloomy, and honestly, that might have worked, but then the whole thing would have had to be different. It would have had to be PG-13, maybe even R-rated, and just go fully dark for that to work. But if they had done that, they would have alienated a lot of fans. So of course you're not going to do that. What you should have done is you made it fun, goofy, enjoyable, and then you start changing little things. You start changing maybe where are the characters going? Where are we, you know, what are we experiencing? I'm being a little harsh though. Listen, some of the characters are okay. Zuko's done really well, I think. Sokka's done pretty exceptionally well. Iroh, although they rush a lot with his character, is done okay. I think Azul is fine. There's some stuff that is done well. There's some potential things that could be exciting in future seasons. But I don't know, man. This show just felt so frustrating. And by the time I got to the end of it, and like I said, I watched this whole thing in one sitting. I have no life, right? I was so excited for this. I just felt so empty and so disappointed, and honestly, I cannot give this show anything but a 2 out of 5 at the moment. Now, I might make a follow-up video on this to go more in depth, because I just really don't think I could do a review justice in like a 15, 12-minute long video. But my god. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure to like, subscribe, click notifications. I'll see you guys in the next video.